Do you want to know more about living in West Ghent? Well, that's the topic for today, West Ghent and Norfolk, and we're starting right now. Hey, my name is Sam Sansalone, and I'm a real estate agent in Hampton Roads, Virginia, and I'm glad you're here. If it's your first time, hit the subscribe button. You'll be notified if you hit that notification bell every time I do a video every Wednesday, especially if you live in Hampton Roads or if you're planning to relocate here. I want to bring you some context for areas in Hampton Roads and also give you some information more about real estate in Hampton Roads. Well, today we're talking about West Ghent. So what I want to do is give you some background on the area and also tell you about real estate in West Ghent and prices in this area, what they're compared to, the types of homes. I'll bring up some fun history and of course shopping and grocery stores, things like that. What do you find around West Ghent? And of course the restaurants and other things that are inside West Ghent or near it that are things you might frequent if you live in West Ghent. And I'll talk to you about school districts as well. If you see on the map, there's the Armistead Bridge Road. That was actually much longer back over 100 years ago. And the north side of the Armistead Bridge Road, there was a creek and a bridge, the Armistead Bridge. Well, in 1812, the War of 1812, there was a fort called Fort Tar. Well, records showed even then in the 30s that that fort had since become almost nothing, and the creek had left and the bridge was gone. But even that example gives you an idea of how long that area has been there and how long people have used that part of town. That bridge went over Lambert's Creek originally, but that creek has since dried more and now it's just more on the west side of the bridge. And then if you go down that road, Armistead Bridge Road north, you'll see Weyanoke Park, and it's a bird sanctuary on the left, and on the right is that side of Jeff Robertson Park. Where is this in relation to the rest of the area? If you look at a map of West Ghent, you'll see that it's not really a big area. It's around half a mile going from north to south. You'll see it's bordered by Hampton Boulevard on the east, but then on the west side is Norfolk Southern, which is the largest coal distribution terminal in the northern hemisphere. Now on the north side, you see those railroad tracks. That's the north side of West Ghent near Jeff Robertson Park. That little section down below West Ghent is called Chelsea. So this area is small, but it has some cool stuff in it. So in that Chelsea area near West Ghent, you'll find some really cool restaurants that are within walking distance of each other. Places like The Torch or Pax, a Greek restaurant. One of my favorites that I'll tell you about later in the video, I'll say too, is one of the highest ranked beer places in the entire country. A couple breweries too, Smartmouth and Benchtop Brewing. One of my favorites for a while was Tortilla West, has since closed down because the co-owner was sued for embezzlement. So bye-bye Tortilla West, sorry that you missed out on that if you've never been there. In terms of real estate in West Ghent, this is a great alternative to living in the actual neighborhood of Ghent because the prices are a little bit less. I'd say West Ghent is probably about 10 to 15% cheaper than living in Ghent. Most of the houses are built in that 1910, 1915, 1920 time period, that colonial style. There are some condo developments as well in West Ghent, so talking in that $100,000 to $200,000 price range. But there are most of those neighborhoods are in that $300,000, $400,000, and $500,000 price range in West Ghent. But if you take those same kind of houses and move them to Ghent, the actual area of Ghent across from Hampton Boulevard, you might add another extra $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 and up. So if you're looking for a place near Ghent, near all that action, but you don't want to spend as much as you might have to be in Ghent to get the kind of house you want, West Ghent might be a good alternative to get a similar style house, similar size house, 2,500 square feet, 2,800, 3,000, and spend maybe a little bit less for that same kind of house. And seeing on these drive-thrus, they're great neighborhoods. There's a lot of trees, a lot of nature, a lot of people that have lived here for a long time and really developed the culture of this West Ghent neighborhood. A lot of these houses have amazing hardwood floors, wide rooms, tall ceilings, that kind of that historic colonial style that a lot of people like. So one thing about West Ghent is that it does have a great neighborhood culture and the West Ghent Civic League. And for West Ghent and Chelsea, your high school is Maury. I'll drop details about all these schools as well in the description below. Maury High School, Walter HT Elementary, Blair Middle. Now Walter HT is in West Ghent itself, but Blair Middle and Maury High School are both in Ghent, so they're a little bit further away, but pretty close. Now for grocery stores, you don't really have anything in West Ghent or Chelsea. Food Lion, Fresh Market, and Harris Teeter. They're all in Ghent. I'd say you're probably, less than 5 minutes away from all of those. But for most of the things you're looking for, like medical care, dentistry, stuff like that, that all can be found in Ghent or in Norfolk. And most of what you're looking for, you could find close to West Ghent, just not in the actual West Ghent neighborhood, because most of it is residential. Another thing that's in West Ghent is the end or the west side of the Elizabeth River Trail. I mentioned the Elizabeth River Trail in my pros and cons of Norfolk, Virginia video. I'll throw that up right there. It starts near the east side of Norfolk on the south end near Harbor Park, where the Norfolk Tides AAA baseball team play, and wraps all the way around from the south side of Norfolk to the west side, and it ends at the end of Jeff Robertson Park in West Ghent. And I'll put more information about this in the description. But some other benefits, you're really close to Ghent. Ghent is awesome. Colley Avenue, Colonial Avenue, there are a lot of restaurants up and down those streets. 21st Street is another street that's loaded with restaurants and things to do. The Narrow Theater is close by. You're within walking distance to all this stuff. Now the main thing, like I said before, as long as you're okay with walking across Hampton Boulevard, not really a big deal, but just something to keep in mind for when you come down here and do some research if you're coming in town. And I'll mention too the Little Theater of Norfolk, which is a performing arts center in West Ghent and Chelsea that has been there for almost 90 years. And I'll drop some more information about that as well in the description. And if you like golf, there's a golf course just north of West Ghent by the Norfolk Southern plant called Lambert's Point Golf Course. I want to talk about a couple of the cons to living in West Ghent. One is, I mentioned the Norfolk Southern coal terminal. There have been a lot of news stories that have come out over the last few years about this coal terminal and the effects of the coal dust that results from the dumping of the coal in that area. And so a lot of neighbors have complained, and this has been an ongoing thing for several years, and people have come in and done studies on the effects of this coal, and it has made some neighbors upset. From what I can tell, it hasn't seemed to be such a problem to where it's kept people from living there, but it's something to keep in mind if it does bother you or something that you want to research before moving there. And another thing is Hampton Boulevard. When you see on the map to the east of West Ghent, you'll see Hampton Boulevard. That's a very long road, but also a very busy road. On the south side of Hampton Boulevard, it connects to the Midtown Tunnel, and that often backs up from the tunnel along Hampton Boulevard. So especially in rush hour times, it's really hard to maneuver around Hampton Boulevard. People will often cut through the neighborhood roads to bypass part of Hampton Boulevard. Sometimes it can be aggravating. So just because you're that close to Ghent, for instance, doesn't mean that you're just 30 seconds away. Sometimes it may take you a few more minutes to get to that side. And because West Ghent is on the west side of Hampton Boulevard, it takes a little bit farther to get to downtown Norfolk and to Virginia Beach. So I'd say add an extra 5 minutes just to be safe to your travel time. The speed of which you can get from place to place in the area from West Ghent is all dependent on Hampton Boulevard traffic and downtown Norfolk traffic. But to get to Portsmouth, you're literally right there. I mean, you get on the Hampton Boulevard and veer right, and you take that tunnel, which is Route 58, take that tunnel through. It's called the Midtown Tunnel. It's a real easy access to that part of town if you need to get there. So I'd say 5 minutes or less, unless you're into traffic. If you hit traffic, it could be 10, 15, 20 minutes just because of that extra backup on Hampton Boulevard and through the tunnel. Keep in mind, that's a toll tunnel, and I'll drop below the links to give you the rates for that toll. Now, in terms of flooding, that's another thing that is a little bit spotty, but some places can flood. Flooding is a very loose term, so what I would recommend, especially if you're buying a house or looking to buy a house in West Ghent, is once you find a house in there you like, I would talk to some neighbors to find out exactly how the flooding is, if there's any actual effects of flooding in that area, because there are some homes in areas in West Ghent that are in higher risk flood zones. But not all of it is. So it's really a case-by-case basis, but something to keep in mind. Now, the one restaurant that I want to talk about specifically is the Birch. Now, if you know me, you know that I love the Birch. I actually went there for my bachelor party. It's one of the top-ranked beer places in the entire country, but also in the entire world. I'll drop some links about the Birch. I just feel privileged that it's close to my neighborhood, that I can go there whenever I want to. If you're a local and you've never been and you like beer, this place has a lot of beers you've never tried before. They always change their menu. There's a large, really big chalkboard where they put all their beers, and they're things you've never probably seen before. The environment's nice, and you can also buy some food next door, bring it over to Birch, and they also have like cheese boards, things like that. I'll drop some links about the Birch, of course, in the description below. And I hope you also click the subscribe button and the like button if you like this video. If you have questions, always feel free to reach out to ask me questions. I love to help people that especially are coming in town for the first time. Love to give you some context about more of the area, and I'll see you on the next video.